but narrating a personal experience of mine with Sham Benagal. I was lucky to spend an evening with Sham Benagal. This was in Nairobi, sometime in 2001 or 2002. I was the counselor handling the Indian diaspora, besides passport visas. So I don't remember for why he came kinds of people, the Gujaratis and the Punjabis. Very arrogant. Karnakuta. South Indian community. Yeah, they built a Venkateshwara temple and all that. Yeah, anyway, these are the prominent people, the moneyed people. They had plenty of money and they organized themselves. Organized themselves. What is your next project? And he had told me the story of one Muslim princess from Madhya Pradesh. It is correct. It is a film came out as Zubaida.
Picked up by Sham Benagal, because there is another story behind that. Times of India in Bombay is very, very popular, the paper people buy. And there used to be Sunday, there used to be a small column called the Personal Eye.
Yeah.
And then Khalid wrote about Mammo, that his grand aunt who had to go back to Pakistan.
Correct.
And till then, and Sham liked it so much, he called up Khalid and said, I want to make a film on that. And till then, the irony of it is, Khalid was the harshest critic of Sham Benagal films in the Times of India. Yeah. Because before Khalid came as the critic, there used to be mistake. Then he had Bhanu Das, who was his constant editor. And another great thing about Sham Benagal is he brought sync sound into filmmaking. Ankur was sync sound. All of them have these dubbing dates. So what votaries of good cinema says, you're losing so much of authenticity when you're doing this post-production dubbing. So the first take, like of a camera, and then the first way after they rehearse and then they speak, there is so much of spontaneity that gets when you're doing this post-production dubbing. There's a certain kind of a monotony that comes in and a certain kind of artificiality that comes in, whereas with sync sound, you have the authenticity of experience. And Hollywood has always done sync sound after they got over the hurdles of sound, because people had bad voices. And he is known as the exceptionally perceptive eye for casting. Because casting, getting the right actor without any claims to false modesty, Benagal says, I have a way, I don't know what it is, of being able to tell how people will photograph. With Smita, no one would think she'd make a film star. Because in India you have this bias against darker skin, it is into stars, like the iconic quartet of parallel cinema, Shabana, Smita, Nasiruddin Shah and Om Puri, and a whole lot of others. If you see a film like Mandi, you have so many, you have Neena Gupta, you have Soni Razdan, and you have, he gets the best out of them. And it's not that because you have a Shabana and a Smita in a film like Mandi, the others don't register their presence. They do. I mean, people like Amrish Puri, Kulbhushan Karbhanda, all of them, they were like, they came from the stage also, but then they could have some scenes that you remember only for them. In Alwal, that is like a small outskirt of Hyderabad city, and his father was a photographer, and he made his first film at 12, Sham Benagal. So from the camera that his father gave him, and he comes up with so many sudden insights when he's talking. It's a pleasure to talk to him. Then suddenly he says, do you remember the film Cinema Paradiso? It's an Italian classic where in a small town in Sicily, a young boy watches films from the projectionist room, and then he becomes a filmmaker.
Part of Hyderabad city, and my father was a still photographer, so that explains the family interest in photography and film and so on. It was to create one side of the cinema. There was nobody there. There used to be tennis courts, so we'd put a wedge in the door. So without paying any money, we could watch a lot of films from there, which we did. Then made friends with these operators, and that a number of films where we also got cuttings.
Like a loose trilogy, Ankur, Nishant, and Manthan. There is a kind of it's a protest against and then dismantling feudal structures, because he used to talk about Zapata and the Mexican Revolution. He could talk about Marxism. He could talk about all the movements, leftist movements that were there in the world. So along with aesthetics about cinema, he also had this, the strong grounding in the political philosophies of the existentialism. So there were all these influences, intellectual influences that were there. So you see, if you deconstruct a Sham Benagal film, you can see so many layers in that. Mirza would cast Albert Pinto ko gussa kyon aata hai or things like that. But they had no way of distributing, showing the films. I mean, if we had this kind of multiplexes in those days, these films would have had a better chance of being seen. Otherwise, they were intelligent, engaging, but did not talk down to his audience. They were not preachy. So, you see, in Ankur, what happens is, you have Anantnag is that the Zamindar's son who comes, he's sent away because he fails in his exam. His father sends him away to look after the land from Hyderabad. And he's married and his wife is still very young. She's pre-pubertal marriage there. So he comes here and there is this Lakshmi whose husband is a potter who is like deaf mute. And it's not like, not like the regular thing of a Zamindar film. So he has this eye for the composition and getting the close-ups, and he had a very good cinematographer, Govind Helani, who was apprenticed to V.K. Murthy, the great V.K. Murthy. He was in a class of his own, and
there's a very fine sensitivity in that film. Here is a typical landlord son. Take the usual stereotyped notion of peasants rising up in protest against the landlord and all that. It is very subtle and very nuanced. So that's what makes it so appealing, actually.
What he's done is, he's restored authenticity to the language, localized the language. All these films, this and the next one, Nishant, are both set in Hyderabad, and then they have this Hyderabadi, Dakhni, they speak. Nobody, there is no, to the next town, nobody, he says they will not admit the complaint. And there is a policeman in the village who is not a very small village, it's fairly largish. And they don't, he's the Nizam's government servant. But in this village, they follow the orders of that, the biggest landlord in the thing. And then there is also a temple revolt, and when social and economic revolt is also has the additional edge of religious sanction to society.
The idea of revolt, here from Ankur to Nishan, there is a definite progression. In Ankur, there is only an anarchic act of a boy throwing a stone. That anarchic act has no social consequence. It just disappears. There's no Nishan. Benagal understands the importance of building a social awareness.
In Rome, because she's been kept as a person who's been kidnapped and all the people paid, all those dairy farmers paid 2 rupees each because Korean, but he wanted Korean film to be made about the Amul, the cooperative. The middle now explores different kinds of filmmaking, you know, different themes. And Bhumika,
You must
what is happening in society, politically or economically. There is this, it's a small town in Telangana, and Rukmini Bai is the brothel owner, and her prized position is Zenat. They want to get them out of the village. Outside, drunken man, but very loyal to Rukmini Bai. But I think that's we can put this in 9, which is a film within a film. When you start watching the film, you think that this is a documentary being made about Dalit oppression in a village. And the book and the film is based on Voices Unheard, Harsh Mandar's book. You know, it's set in Madhya Pradesh. And there are these many oppressions there. There is that one, and Sham Benagal has started this kind of a critiquing of the narrative itself, an earlier film which had Bharti. So there is that 4 people are sitting and they're talking about this Devdas character, Abba, and Danada is called Welcome to Surajpur, Sajjanpur. Welcome to Sajjanpur is like again a satire on that village, exactly like him. Unlike this upright man, he is like a con man who's taking money from people, and the whole bureaucratic process, and you have to show a well. There is a photographer who shows the well that is constructed and also destroyed. So awards. APSA is Asia Pacific Screen Awards. They call themselves the Eastern Oscars, but there is the nomination process, and
there's so much Maithili has got. So
All the films that you've seen of him,
many, the layers, they can Jagiv that. He's so obsessed having this girl Ruth.
yes, seeing films, understanding them, critiquing them. So we can have many more sessions with her, with the right number of films and right number of directors. Thank you very much, Maithili Rao, for this excellent talk. We are grateful to you for giving us so much